Hello everyone, we are Gaming by Gaslight, and this is Europa Universalis 4. Now, you may recall me mentioning a little while back on the subscriber special that this is a series that I wanted to bring to the channel, because I may be biased, but I think that it has a possibility of doing rather well here. So, before I actually commit to a series, though, I kind of wanted to just show it off, let you guys see what it is, and if there would be any interest. So, let me know at the end of this video what you think in the comments, and I jumped right in there. Basically, Europa Universalis 4 is, well, the fourth game in a series of games that are sort of set around 1444, or that's the earliest start date. You have a couple of start dates here, all the way up to 1792 for Revolutionary France, apparently. But, you know, most games start with the 1444 date because, you know, biggest time period to play in. But anyway, you know, it basically sort of simulates the period of European dominance, you know, with the like discovery and conquering of the New World, all the crazy stuff going on in here throughout that period. And you can play as any one of these nations, or you can create your own. There's a custom nation thing here that was added with the El Dorado expansion pack. And this game actually did it come out back in 2013? Maybe 2012. And I've been a big fan of it for a long time, only recently actually got around to buying it. And yeah, so that's, I guess, enough just sort of blathering on there, but it's what you'd call a grand strategy game. It's, I guess, think Civilization, but then make it real-time with pause, and then add a whole bunch of interconnected, complex mechanisms that really create this really engaging and strategic experience. It's a really cool, the kinds of things you see here, because, I mean, like in any game like this, you know, you start off historical, but pretty much from the moment you hit the play button, everything just goes straight off the rails and into Crazy Town. But, yeah, I have a test game I've been running here just to familiarize myself with it, as you can see, creatively called Test Game. And I'm actually almost at the end of the game. It's like 1820 something, I think. 22 maybe is the last year of the game, so as you can see, I've only got about a decade or so left. And creatively called it the Gaslight Empire. I started off, zoomed in a bit too much, right here, just as like a little, I think I had all these as my starting provinces because they're pretty wealthy, a bunch of fancy ideas. And we'll get into all this eventually. I don't want this video to get too long, but it'll be a bit of a tutorial-y type thing. And as you can see, we pretty much conquered most of Scandinavia into the, there's like Germany right here, isn't it? My geography is not the greatest. I mean, I know this is Germany, but I think Germany extends, like in real life, a bit further down and everything, and we're into France a little bit. As you can see, Austria has pretty much devoured the Netherlands region. And, I also, most recent conquest was of Great Britain. After having them bother me for so long, they really slowed my expansion in this game, because every time I went after Sweden, insisted on being my enemy in this game for some reason. Yeah. Oh, also, you might notice as a custom nation, I am playing as a Norse, with an American culture, because, I mean, American closest thing in this game to Canadian. There's no unique Canadian culture group, which is kind of sad. I mean, it's all just a subset of British, as it were. And Norse doesn't obviously exist in the 15th century when the game begins, but as a custom nation, I thought, why not make the game even harder for myself by playing as a religion group that will make me absolutely hated by everyone, because, you know, I'm not the right religion. And I'm playing as, does it actually say here? Oh yeah, we're an empire, because we're so damn big. And, where does this... It should say somewhere here, but we're basically playing as an English monarchy, which was a government type added with the most recent expansion, Common Sense, and that does some cool stuff. But how about instead of me just talking here, let's go right into the game. I forget exactly where I left off. I hope I'm not in the middle of a war. Ooh. And let's switch over to the countries sort of map mode. There's a whole bunch of different map modes. You like coalition map mode, as you can see. People are pretty close. In fact, as soon as my truce runs out with France, I bet they're fairly likely to join a coalition against me, because as you can see, I have -89 aggressive expansion, which might as well explain what that is right away. Basically, it's probably the big limiting factor to keep you players from just, and the AI, of course, from just like blobbing out of control and just like conquering left and right. I mean, it also costs your various monarch points, but we'll get into those in a minute. But yeah, once you get enough aggressive expansion built up, people will start forming coalitions against you, which are basically alliances, big teams basically of nations that are all sort of united in their common hatred of you. And they're not that big a deal if you know how to sort of play them off of each other and keep them from getting too big and stuff like that. And shockingly, I only had one alliance form on me, or coalition rather, against me in this entire game. I don't know how I managed that. I guess I was playing a bit cautiously in expansion. I mean, like, most of what you see here with my, like, land gains was just in the last 60, 70 years of time. I mean, I conquered all Scandinavia early, but because that wasn't here in the HRE region, people didn't really care. Speaking of the HRE, well, yeah, that's a thing. Holy Roman Empire. And yeah, I don't think I'll try to explain everything in this game, because there is a lot, and this is some kind of revolution thing, because the Ottomans apparently completely failed their country, and the people rose up, and I actually don't quite understand all the talk of this revolution stuff, because I haven't really seen too much of that myself, so yeah, that'll be something we'll get into. And then, you know, we have Parliament. This is part of our group. Basically, you get, you can set your various provinces. You don't need to set all of them, but just there's like a minimum number based on, I think, like the development total of your nation or whatever, and then you can start debates and things and get stuff going on. That's all complicated stuff. How about I don't try to cover all the little details, because there's a lot in this game, and it's really cool. But I think we'll probably cover like the details of things in like a proper series as we like play as different groups and all. You get to do things like building, you know, you can improve your provinces, here with the university there, for example. You can build units, like that, for instance. You have mercenaries, which you can hire. They don't get drawn from your manpower pool, and yeah, again, you know what? I'm doing all this wrong, aren't I? I'm explaining things entirely the wrong way. Let's start from the simple stuff, shall we? Let's just pretend I haven't been blabbering on. Let's go back to this. Most important things you're probably wondering, just looking at the UI. You know, you have your treasury, that's your money, your manpower, which is how many people, you know, that fight for you and all, which, like, they're sort of like, think of them, I guess the easiest way is like as hit points or something. I think that makes sense. Basically, every regiment in your army, they are made up of 1,000 manpower, and I mean, you have and also all units are divided into infantry, cavalry, and artillery. And generally, this particular stat, which one am I clicking on? Yeah, this stack is probably not the best example of like balancing them, and how many infantry, cavalry, and artillery you want really depends on your culture group. For instance, if you are there any hordes left? Are you a horde? This might be a horde culture. It's probably not. Wait, does it say? No, I don't think there's any hordes left at this point in the game. Russia probably ate them all. Oh, wait. No, everyone's probably westernized by this point, or, you know, just not a horde anymore. But hordes and all, and the Ottomans, yes, different culture groups. Like I think, are you Eastern? I can't tell. I'm not very good at reading all the little stuff in the interface, but different groups, your like Eastern and horde groups, they can have more cavalry as part of their composition, and that's good, and they won't get any like tactics penalty, I think it is. Yeah, again, I don't know all the details of the game that I've been watching and then playing for years now. But anyway, we'll figure all that out in depth when we actually do a series running. You have your stability, which, as you can see here, affects unrest in your provinces and many other things. So our current stabilities why do I feel like I'm saying that not quite right? Stability is not, it's giving us trade power, spy defense. By having positive stability, it's lowering the national unrest, tax modifiers, all that good stuff. You have your prestige, which is basically how cool you are in the eyes of the rest of the world, and it also gives you bonuses for being awesome. And your legitimacy, which is how legitimate your ruler is, and this is replaced with Republican tradition if you're playing as a Republic, and there might be something else here, depending. I don't know if there's any other culture groups. I think it's either legitimacy if you're some kind of hereditary ruler, or Republican tradition if you're some kind of republic with elected rulers and stuff like that. Then you have your power projection, which is sort of I guess, the sort of sphere of influence you're exerting on the rest of the world, and you get that by doing things with your rivals, because you can set nations to be your rival with various effects. And as you can see here, we get all kinds of cool trade power and extra morale of our armies and navies, fort defense, extra legitimacy. Because we have over 50, we get extra monarch points, which, these are the monarch points. You have your administration, your diplomatic, and your military. And these are basically what you use to upgrade your technology, which, makes you better. And you can also use your spare points to do things like upgrade the various attributes of your provinces to develop them. And you can increase the manpower of a province, which increases maximum manpower, recruitment time, garrison growth. You can increase your diplomatic power to get more production and goods produced and decrease shipbuilding time. And monthly tax income and spy defense with your administration. This one I've always felt is kind of not as useful because at the end of the day, spy defense, I think, is really only important when you're playing with other players, because the AI doesn't really do any of the spy stuff in this game. I could be wrong with some of this, but in tax income, early game tax income is important, but late game you start relying more on trade to make your money and other things like that. So, yeah. Oh, I suppose I should also... these are the buildings. Depending on how much development you have, determines how many buildings you can build. You get your forts, you can actually turn them on and off. There's various things like this, but that's all little detail work we will look at later. Oh yeah, you can see things like if there's a river, which plays into the tactics of a battle, and strait crossings, and you can look at the history of a province. Pretty cool. Nice. Anyway. And then you get little things like your rebel uprisings. Rebels will, if you have too much unrest, the rebels start building up and, tearing your empire apart, or trying to. And they all have different reasons. Like, these guys are Mephian separatists, who, as you can see over here, want Meph over here, which I just recently conquered, to be their own sort of separate nation. And you have, religious zealots who want to convert your country into being one religion or another. Naturally, in this game, I have a whole bunch of Catholic and Protestant zealots who keep getting angry every couple of years as I convert everyone to the old Norse ways. And so on and so forth. You have your overextension, which is another big limiting factor on how big you can grow at one time. Because every province, based on its development, has sort of an overextension cost. And you have to have a core on it, which costs administration points. And cores, by the way, you can see right here. Cores or claims. Do we have a claim I can show off? That's a core. Where's a good claim example? Oh, here we go. As you can see, I have a claim on this province, which I can use as a pretext for going to war. I think I'm at... do I have a truce with these guys? No, I don't. So I could declare war. I'm not going to in this example. But as you can see, because we have all these claims in these various provinces, we can use that as an excuse. Of course, late game you get... Oh, reconquest. We have Sweden as a vassal. So we could say, hey, we're going to war to get this for our vassal. but really we're getting it for ourselves, obviously. I knew we could give it to Sweden, but, you know, technically, since Sweden's our vassal, it's all ours anyway. And late game, you start getting awesome things like imperialism, which gives you little bonuses like this, such as less cost for grabbing provinces and less aggressive expansion for doing so, because once you hit imperialism, you know, they're better off in our glorious empire. You know, we're awesome, so we're going to annex you. And let's see, you get your government, you get advisors, your monarch has monarch points, the advisors help bolster that and stuff of that nature. You have your economy screen, which shows off the economy, our diplomacy screen, which shows off our diplomacy, or diplomacy going on in other places. And as you can see, we can do all kinds of things. We can ask for military access, we can do stuff with their economy, we can do things like this, we can try to royal marry them, but no one in this game will marry my rulers because we're the wrong religion. It's kind of annoying, because, yeah, I apparently decided for my first game, make things as hard on myself as possible by making myself the wrong culture, wrong religion for this general part of the world. So nobody liked me. I'm actually really lucky that I got this far because Sweden immediately declared war on Denmark, so I decided, hey, let's take advantage of that, and then I declared war on Denmark and pretty much ate Denmark. It was a glorious day for the Gaslight Empire. And then we have our... Anyway, we already looked at this. Here's our technology, which you upgrade and you get new things. Military for your units. This generally for... Or diplomatic, mostly controls like ships and trade and stuff like that. And administration helps you unlock ideas and a few other things, like new government types and so forth. Ideas are sort of like little bonuses. You know, you get, like, because of where we were and how I decided to set things up, I chose humanist ideas early on, so we could get religious unity and local... I don't know if religious unity is all that important in this particular, or as a Norse character, but I figured it couldn't hurt. And lowering unrest, and heretic tolerance, and less separatism, and so on and so forth. And this for colonists, because you may or may not have noticed, depending on how far I zoomed out, look at all these colonies. We also have 2 Canadas for some reason. We have colonial America, we have Louisiana, which is nowhere near where Louisiana is in real life. Yeah, Louisiana in real life is like down here somewhere. I hope I got that right, I don't want to offend anyone from Louisiana. And Oregon, I think, is moderately close, but not quite in the right area for where it should be. Actually, technically, most of Louisiana and all of Oregon is actually in what is Canada in real life. And then somewhere over here is, whatchamacallit, Alaska. And British Columbia and so forth. In fact, what is this? Haida... Ugh, terrible with my own geography. Well, all this would be Alaska, wouldn't it? Because I know that in real life, you can actually, on a good day, see Russia from Alaska, and vice versa. Which is pretty cool when you think about it. Anyway, but we're getting off topic. Let's see here. You get missions, which... Actually, let's speed time along and see what kind of missions we have. There you go. Missions, you don't need to take them, you can completely ignore them, but they give you little bonuses, like, for instance, if we had Conquer Kola, we get manpower recovery speed and yearly prestige until the 2nd of January 1822. So, you know what, or rival your rival, make Lithuania like us more. You get some little... They're just little bonuses, they're not like make-or-break type things, and this video is going far longer than I expected it would. There's a lot to show off in this game. You have your stability, we already looked at that, we have our religious screen. As a Norse, every time you get a new ruler, you can pick which god you're worshipping, and since we've been doing a lot of war lately, I figured Odin might as well be the guy we're worshipping. Just some stuff with military, you can hire military leaders. Personally, I think that once you unlock conquistadors, you might as well be hiring them, just because, generals and conquistadors... My understanding is there's a bit of debate on whether, which one gives you better stats, but in my experience so far, it seems that there's really no difference, and conquistadors have the added bonus of being able to walk in terra incognita, which I can't really show off because pretty much the whole world is uncovered at this point in time. And then, of course, you have your admirals, your explorers, which are kind of like conquistadors for the water. You can make your leader or your heir a military leader if they're male, because obviously gender equality wasn't a big thing back in these days. And, yeah, we can look at our subjects. As you can see, Sweden, Oregon, Nassau, or Nassau. That's how I would say that, right? Nassau? Oh, that's another thing. If we do play this game on the channel, I am so sorry, but I am going to utterly butcher... If you're from Europe, I'm going to butcher the names of your homeland. I am so sorry about that. I do, give me correct pronunciation in the comments, but I can't make any promises that I'll actually get any better over time. I will try, of course, but no promises there. And you can do stuff, like interact with them and all, and then you can have a bunch of things here. There's more stuff you can look at here. In fact, there's a whole bunch of different screen types. You can look at the level of forts, you can look at colonial regions, or actually that's the economical map mode. Here's the colonial regions. You know, where colonial nations will show up. As you can see, this is like the colonial Mexico region, colonial Louisiana. I don't really know why colonial Louisiana is like this big. There's probably some historical reason that I don't know that explains this. This is Canada, obviously. This is Eastern America. You have the Caribbean over here. Colonial, the Caribbean. I see. Colombia, Brazil. All really cool places. There's no colonial regions in Africa, but you can still settle there. And big idea with these is you use Africa as like a staging ground to get into India and Asia and Australia. Yes, Australia. I think Australia is independent. Yeah, they're independent because it doesn't say like British Australia. So, yeah, all my fighting with Great Britain over here pretty much allowed all their colonial nations to declare independence. So, sorry, Britain. And then, yeah, you get all the stuff going on. I didn't really get into Asia in this particular game. I mostly focused on North America and Europe because I thought, why not? And seriously, endgame, if you're like spread all over the world, it can get pretty hectic trying to manage, but I mean, that's probably half the fun. And, oh, there's so much more to show off. I mean, you have merchants who help direct trade. Let's look at trade quickly. You have all these different trade nodes and things like that. I'll try to explain all this better in like an actual series as we go along. I think the best way to do it, because there's just so much in this game, is like as we play through the game, just like ask me. And what's this? Okay, that's cool. Like, these are little bonuses. Coastal Center of Trade, Sound Toll, Otter Estuary, etc., etc. And, yeah. And, yeah, you use your merchants to either steer trade power, like, towards one of your own nodes, or to collect in one of those nodes. And, you have your colonists, which, so they're not very useful at this point in the game, since everything's been colonized. You have your diplomats, which allow you to interact with all the various nations out there. And you have your missionaries, who convert people, all those dirty heathens and heretics and so forth, into your religion. Because that's what all the cool people are doing in 1812, apparently. Anyway, this episode is actually probably as long as an actual video, and I didn't really do anything but talk the whole time, and I probably barely broke the surface on all the things I could, like, explain to really make clear what's going on in this game. But hopefully I covered enough that your curiosity is at least piqued a little if you've never seen or heard of this game before, or, like, any of the Grand Strategy games by Paradox Interactive. And, yeah. So, let me know what you think in the comments. Thank you all for watching, and sooner rather than later, I think we will start this up. I think I'll start the series proper once we wrap up with Soma, but yeah. This is something I'm really looking forward to, and I hope you guys are just as excited to maybe see more of this game. But until then, thank you again all for watching, and I will see you all in the next video.